All right, we're live on all channels. Cool. On Facebook. I'm gonna share to a couple of groups real quick. What's up, everybody? Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Today Thursday, right?
Yes, sir.
Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. There we go. Oop. Don't want to miss these Propstream nuggets. Turn this down so it won't be no echo. All right, I think we're ready to rock and roll. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Nothing But Nuggets podcast with Antoine Campbell. Today I got my very special guest, my guy Burton from Propstream. He's going to be on today. Burton, he's originally from the Philippines. He moved to Southern California. He's been working with Propstream for over 7 years. And today we're going to be touching on an array of things, such as utilizing Propstream as one of the core tools so you can effectively wholesale from home, aka virtually wholesaling. Showing you how to move through the platform to the point that you're pulling sophisticated lists and knowing what type of customers to target. He's going to be touching on a few tips about data and aggregating data in a way that makes sense for you to generate the most qualified leads as possible. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop your comment. If you don't know what Propstream is, don't you worry. We're going to be showing you live ways to work the Propstream. And if you need a 7-day free trial, me and Propstream will hook you up. Just go to reigiverdata.com and we'll take great care of you. Okay, Brent, what's up? Let everybody know who you are, and basically how you got started into this whole real estate / Propstream thing.
Yeah, so I started just like anybody, didn't know anything about real estate, right? But the thing about me is I'm a tech guy. So I've had tech history, used to deal with a lot of computers, software, hardware. 7 years ago, Propstream was looking for a tech support agent. So I answered that call. And as I was like helping people, install the product, I was asking questions. People like you would call in, hey, I need help with this application. It's not working properly. So as I'm fixing it, I'm talking about, what are you doing? What is it that you do? And so forth. So I learned over the last 7 years. And then I also took it upon myself to educate myself. So read a lot of books on creative seller financing, wholesaling, fix and flipping, lease options subject to, took my real estate courses, haven't taken my license yet, but still kind of educating myself as, this industry changes, especially like right now. Right now, this industry is going through a dramatic change. And so just taking upon yourself to educate yourself was important for me, but then also having my foot in the door with Propstream and understanding how the data is collected and all that aspect. So I was able to kind of be that hybrid where I'm just like you guys, learning and understanding investing and what to find and the things that you need to get your business going, but also having my foot through the door of the data industry. So that way I can kind of be like your tour guide, right? When you go to Egypt and go see the pyramids, you don't know much about it. So you hire a tour guide to kind of walk you through and kind of help you understand the history and how things unfold, right? And that's essentially what I do. I've worked in the last 7 years of both sides. And so I'm here to kind of help you guys understand how to effectively approach Propstream, why it's beneficial, especially in this time that we're in right now. And most importantly, how to data manipulate, which I think is the most important thing of our system.
So in a nutshell, like if someone's brand new, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a bunch of people watching this replay once we air it on YouTube. Well, it's actually live, but once they go back and watch the replay. Can you explain to people
You broke up on me, Antoine. Hello? Can you repeat that? I think we are facing some technical difficulties right now. How's it going, guys? Yeah, I think his feed froze. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume his question was for a new investor, how can Propstream help you out? Well, let's just kind of break it down, right? New or seasonal. Let's say there was no technology at all. What you would have to do is go find leads, right? So you would have to usually go down to the county records and pull like a list of pre-foreclosures, tax liens, tax delinquencies, bankruptcies, divorces. They're all scattered throughout the county. And so what you would have done is gone in there and got these recordings and then taken them home after making copies and then manually siphon through it to find essentially like the best leads possible. That's what Propstream does for you. We do the hard work. We go out there and we go collect that data for you. So I think I'm waiting for Antoine to join in, but we'll elaborate a little bit more on that question. So just a second here. I think his feed went out. Hold on one second. Hey everyone. So it looks like Antoine just went down, but I'm left in his studio or his virtual studio. So Propstream's taking over, guys. No, just joking. He'll be on in just a few moments. So we're working things out on the back end. So bear with us. We should hopefully be up and running in just a few moments. He probably forgot to plug in his charger. Bets. Anybody want to place bets? So he'll be on in just a few. I'm going to go ahead and cut my video, get with him on the back end and see if we can get this thing back up and running. So please be patient. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Hey, welcome back.
Sorry about that. Thank God it still was going. You know, I'm sitting outside the hotel mooching off their Wi-Fi. I think they booted me over. I had to roll back in. I'm always on the go like a cup of coffee. But yeah, so in a nutshell, explain to everybody what PropStream is.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, for the last 15 years, we've collected county records, MLS records, mortgage records, lien records, deed records on a nationwide level. So the reason for that is we wanted to do the hard work of having one person go to the county and get this recording, not only take care of that hard work, but to be able to manipulate all of that information. So not only are we getting this information on a nationwide level, but you'll be able to stack them, suppress them, essentially isolate whatever strategy or lead type that you're looking for.
Okay, and how easy is it? So if I'm brand new hopping into the game, how easy is the interface with PropStream if I was navigating through it to pull these records?
When you look at it, it looks very complicated, but it's actually really simple. There's a search bar at the top. You type in either a county, a city, a zip code. You can even type in a specific address if you're analyzing a property that you already have on contract or you're interested in. But typically, there's a two-part process to it. The first part is that you search a market. And when you search that market, it's going to populate all the results for you in that market that we've collected. And then from there, you can just click on the categories that we've isolated and just go through all the records unfiltered. Or you can go into our filter, and then that's when you kind of start stacking certain things, whether it's on market, off market, high equity, low equity, and so forth.
And what type of list do you think, if I'm brand new, if I'm fresh off the boat, what type of list would you recommend we start with?
Well, that's a really tricky question. It's kind of a loaded question in my book because it depends on like the capability of that investor, right? Now, usually when someone's fairly new, they're taught, find motivation, find distress. And we have these high motivated categories like pre-foreclosures, auctions. And so a lot of individuals would usually start there. And from there, they're able to isolate single family, commercial buildings, whatever other layer of information that they need. So you have that ability, but for the seasoned investors that not only do pre-foreclosures, but obviously have their skin in the game for a long time, that we have leads that are fresh, essentially tax liens that aren't in pre-foreclosure yet. And we all know if you don't pay a lien, that can inevitably turn into a pre-foreclosure. So we have the ability of finding you things way before pre-foreclosure if you have the time to work with them. Because some of these leads, again, they're not as highly motivated as a pre-foreclosure. So these tax liens may take a little bit longer in terms of building rapport, follow-up, marketing, in order to get that deal done.
As far as the comping, like, is it relatively easy? I know in certain states, like the non-disclosure states, there's a few extra steps you may have to do in order to gain the most accurate comps. But just generally, like if I was wanting to go in the state of Maryland, like what types of comps do you all provide?
Well, we give our users two types of comps that they can utilize. The first one is public record comps, and the second one is MLS records. So the difference between the two is that public record comps are officially sold records that the county has pushed out publicly, but these also include off-market sales, right? So a lot of people don't understand that properties can sell without an agent. That's what us investors do, right? We buy properties privately. So there are a lot of properties that can sell that the county will record that the MLS doesn't have. So the benefit with public records is they're official and you'll be able to see off-market sales. Now, the one challenge with public records is frequency. So a property could sell today and then it could take literally anywhere between a few weeks or even a month, 2 months. I've seen even longer for a county to record it because remember, there is someone behind that counter pushing in the data before it gets released publicly. So there is a challenge with the public records and it's the frequency, and it usually will dictate on the county. And this is where MLS comes into play.
I try to explain that to people because, I actually buy houses personally. I don't just wholesale as well. And, especially in the state of Maryland, PG County, TB Pacific. Man, I said I bought a house cash and I got a hard money loan on and try to refinance it. And they asking me like, how do you own this house if it's still in this lady's name? I showed them the deed and everything. And then I had to drive down to the deed office. They had a stack of deeds on the floor that they haven't even touched for 3 months. They said, hey, we're gonna get to them, we won't have enough people. And I'm like, this is how you guys operate. But you gotta understand, like when you're a federal employee, like this, the level of sense of urgency is not there. So I try to tell everybody, even people bash PropStream about certain records. I said, listen, they're getting it straight from the source. So that whatever the API guy's telling you, They got to get it straight from the source, which is the county record. If you're not going down to the county, or someone going down there manually logging the stuff into a database, I don't care what you say, the list is not going to be as accurate because the county itself haven't even updated it yet.
Exactly. And that's the thing that, and I appreciate you kind of bringing that to light, because a lot of people think that, well, you should be instantly tapped into the county's records. Like the moment they have something record, like we're somehow supposed to have that information. And that is not true, guys. We actually have to aggregate that information. And so we're just like you guys, except on a nation level. We send our team out there to get those records that are, in your case, physical records. Some counties are electronic, so we can get that electronic. Some counties are physical records. Some counties are on these little reels that we have to get. So a lot of people kind of have this unrealistic expectation that, hey, a property sold, therefore you should have it within 24 to 48 hours. And guys, that's just an unrealistic expectation. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because it does shed light on the public records, which again is one of the challenges, is the frequency. But then this is why we have MLS to run comps. So you can use one or the other. So the MLS comps are properties that have been sold through an agent or a brokerage, right? So usually about 8 out of 10 times, these are properties that have been fully rehabbed, or what I like to call marketable condition. So 8 out of 10 times the properties that you're going to see in the MLS comps are already rehabbed, or again, taken care of to where it's in marketable condition to get typically full price.
Well, let's talk about this real quick. People today on my live and people yesterday keep asking me, what is this new flipper button about? Can you explain exactly what that filter is? The flipper, I guess it's called flipper function or flipper button.
Oh yeah, I love it. Okay, so the flipper button is actually a category that we have in our filter. It's a new category that we added. So people have asked, I'm looking for investors. I need to find an investor to flip this contract. And so the typical way is to go through cash bought records, which we have, and to look for a cash buyer in the last 6 months, maybe the last year, individual, corporate, single family, and you know how the thing goes. So being that we have both MLS records and county records, and we've been in this game for a long time, right now, all we're doing is having fun with that data. And what we've done is we've merged those two data sets together and applied a logic. So the logic with flippers is this: find us a property that has been bought and owned for less than 24 months and is now back on the market. And so with that logic, we're 8 out of 10 times finding a flipper in the results. And again, the reason why we have that logic is, think of you guys, right? You're a fix and flipper. You buy a house today. We're hoping that you're going to get all of your rehabbing and all that stuff done within at least 2 years. Most of you guys can probably get it done in about a few months, but the logic is a little bit longer. So we're hoping that you bought the house and within less than 2 years, you've rehabbed it and now it's on the market with an agent. And that is our flippers list. So it's kind of like saying, hey, yeah, these are investors, but these are investors that now have their property listed. And the reason why I like them, and both are good lists, but the reason why I kind of like the flippers list is I like to think of it this way. If a cash buyer buys a house today or in the last 6 months, I don't know whether that cash buyer is no longer able to pick up another project, right? All I know is they bought a property in cash in the last year, but I don't know if their capability is to have 2 projects running at once, 10 projects. So I have to call that buyer and probe that buyer and whatnot to see, what their level of capability is. Or I can look at the flippers list. And the reason why I like that is because here's an investor who bought a property within the last 2 years and it's back on the market, which means that the property's already been done. Like the project is complete, it's now being sold. So in theory, if that property sells, that flipper probably needs a new contract. And so we've created that list for you guys to take advantage of.
That's awesome. That's like a hybrid cash buyers list. And I'm glad you said something very interesting. You know me, I get real geeky with you with the data. You said you created this list out of logic. And so many of the, I call the API guys, I'm gonna beat them up today. A lot of their lists that they're pushing and trying to act like they have the best data is all logic. It's not really like something that's a standard. It's their logic of why this list is what they think it is.
That's exactly 100%. At the end of the day, the reality is we all get the same data from the same national providers, period, right? And the thing that we've done in the last 15 years is that we've been in the business for a while, that we've built really great relationships with these national providers. And we've pretty much found the best, most credible providers out there. And then we shop their data. We know which of these providers have the best pre-foreclosure frequency, have the best mortgage information. And we know the information that they don't do so well in, right? And so we essentially merge all of these entities as data sets together into PropStream, and that way you're able to see the entire picture. So not our data source doesn't just come from one provider, it's multi-sourced. And that's what we've done in the last 15 years. And then on top of that, we, again, understanding from an investor standpoint, what is it that we need? Well, we've learned over time, especially me, I've learned over time that ultimately real estate data is used by everybody, right? Contractors, lenders,
Exactly.
brokers, fix and flippers, wholesalers, subject to. I mean, you can go down the list of who can use real estate data. But at the end of the day, what a lead is a problem, right? So if you're a contractor, you're looking for a physical problem, maybe an old building so you can do electrical work, roof work. If you're an agent, the problem that you're looking for is you need an off-market property, maybe a buyer who's going to sell that property he just bought, or a distressed property that needs to list a property before pre-foreclosure. Same goes for wholesaling. So there's always a problem that you're identifying. And we discovered this very, very, very early, to the point now that we've created this very comprehensive filter to where you can go in there and just build a problem. And I can't emphasize this enough, because a lead is not a list. A lead is a problem. And in some cases, you guys might have seen me shown an example where I'm literally suppressing all public records, no liens, no pre-foreclosures, none of that stuff. But then looking for someone that has 3 mortgages, or looking for someone that is non-owner occupied for 15 years and they live in a different state. And that right there, what I just mentioned, is big
Hey,
right now.
hey,
Because
let me tell you, I'm sorry to cut you off. When you guys went back and separated the just from saying, okay, this is not owner occupied, but you classified from out of state to county to city, man, that was a game changer for me. You get what I'm saying? I don't know if people even understand what I just said, but can you explain what I just said in layman's terms? To because you know, when you got somebody that's not on a occupied owner, they might live across the street. But if you got somebody that's a non-occupied owner and you know for a fact they live out of state and the house been vacant maybe a year, there may be some motivation for them to want to move the property.
boom, you nailed it. And exactly that. So we've identified the location of the non-owner of that property, or the owner that's not occupying that property. And the reason why that's important is, as Antoine was saying, it's a level of a pain point. Think about the situation that we're in now. Everyone's at home, people are losing their jobs. Rent may not be paid. You can't evict people immediately now. You know what I mean? Foreclosures are being delayed. So there are a lot of cash flowing properties that are no longer cash flowing right now. And these are the non-owner occupied properties. And to be able to say, okay, look, I don't want the person living down the street. I want the person in a whole different state. Because let's think about it. You're in Arizona, for example, and you're cash flowing a property in California. People in California are losing their jobs. They're not able to pay rent. You're in Arizona. You're probably scared to even go to the airport, right? So
Right.
everything has to be done remotely. You got to go get a new agent. If the property was destroyed by a previous tenant, you got to go get contractors, and everything is delayed right now, right? Are they essential workers? Are they not? Are they able to rehab that property? How long is it going to take? If there is a mortgage on that, and as Antoine said, if it's been vacant now for 6 months, a year, it's no longer cash flowing. It's now become a problem to you, right? Because now you're going to take care of that mortgage if there's an existing mortgage on it. So these landlords are a big, big thing right now because of what's going on in this current atmosphere. And then the further you are away from your property, the more responsibility you're giving to other people to manage
Exactly.
that property. And with what's going on right now, the people that you probably had managing that property are also stressing out as well. So thanks for bringing that up, man.
Yeah, I think because even for me, like I'm seeing a lot of people just dump their properties. And I'm telling investors like, hey guys, you should be pulling this list right here with people you know for a fact that own multiple properties, and be calling them and say, hey, I can be a solution to you. I have buyers. whatever you got in your inventory you want to liquidate, give me the opportunity to help you. That's the script you should be rolling with right now.
100%. And we have that capability, guys. Again, you can go in our system and build that. And that was exactly what we designed our system to do, to allow you to identify whatever level of pain point you want, whether it's an obvious one, a property that's in a certain distress list like a pre-foreclosure, or again, you can block all of that and look for a certain year built, certain years of ownership, location of the owner, how many mortgages they have on a property, loan to value ratio, and stuff like that.
So let's show these people what you mean. Like let's whip out the computer and give them a test run. This because first of all, you have this one filter that no one's talking about, and it's called the unknown sale date. It's similar to, I don't know if I can say people, other companies' name, but it's similar to the list source unknown date or unknown equity. And I thought, to me, like if I was a new person starting out, I don't have 18 cents a lead to spare, I would take advantage of that 10,000 lead download. And if you added up 10,000 leads divided by $97, it's coming in less than 3 cents a lead. It's crazy how cheap you can get this data from PropStream. But yeah, let's give them a test drive and some ways you can maneuver through the software and really build a crazy stack list.
Yeah, definitely. So here's PropStream. As you can see, I'm in Riverside, California, but it is nationwide data. So the way that, again, our system can be approached is in a two-part process. The first part is that you're searching a market. So let's just kind of jump into Miami, Florida. So it's not California, not Maryland, where Antoine's at, just a whole different market. When I search Miami, Florida, the city, it's going to tell me that there's over 500,000 or just shy of 500,000 records that I can go through manually. So here I'm able to click on a property and see what's going on that property. Here's a property that's listed, it's active. So we're tying in all of these records together, but the real power of our system is this right here.
Yes.
To be able to go into our filter.
That right there is powerful.
Exactly. To go into our filter and do one of many things. And I don't know if maybe, see, I'm a visual learner, so maybe this helps a little bit. But this is a graph that I've created to show you guys how an owner's level of motivation increases. Usually when an owner buys a property, they're good. There's no reason for them to sell. And there are some categories here that are good. Cash buyers won't sell you a discounted property. People that have high equity won't. Free and clear people won't. Flippers won't, right? Now, some of you guys are raising your eyebrows when I said high equity and free and clear. You're like, Burton, I find deals all the time with free and clear and high. And I agree, you do. But again, what you're probably doing is you're adding an extra layer to it, which is like a high equity property that's vacant, right? So now you're going from good to, hey, there's an uh-oh situation. I don't know if this uh-oh is going to be bad later on, but there's an indicator of some sort of motivation. So high equity vacant, free and clear vacant. So this is the uh-oh stage. And here you're going to find like bankruptcies, divorces, vacant, tired landlords, liens, failed listings, tax delinquencies. And then you have this is the last stop for a homeowner, the need help situation. So this is your pre-foreclosures, your auctions, and for some of you in a redemption state, your foreclosure. So when you understand this process of good, uh-oh, and then I need help as a homeowner, this is where that level of motivation comes in. And our system can isolate any of these three categories. So let's focus on the need help. I'm a new investor. I want to find someone with the highest level of motivation. So I'm going to go into Miami, Florida. Pre-foreclosures, auction, and liens were the highest level of distress. So let's focus on pre-foreclosure. There are 4,495, way too much for my budget. I'm just starting off. So I'm going to go into the filter and isolate exactly what I need. So maybe I don't have money to send postcards, so I need to go knock on doors. So I need an owner-occupied property. I want to make sure the owner is actually there and registered as an occupied property. And then occupancy status. This is USPS data. This is telling you whether the mail is being addressed or not at that property. So if you're going to go knocking on door, I'm sure you're going to want to make sure that they're also addressing their mail, right? Because there are properties that are registered as owner occupied, but clearly they're vacant because the owner actually lives in a different city, a different state, but they've told the county that that's their primary residence. So just being able to control whether the owner is going to be there and whether the owner is even answering their mail is big. Next, we have property characteristics. So just keeping it simple, single family, you have bedrooms, bathrooms, and a bunch of other stuff. whether it's an HOA or not. For those that are doing multifamily properties, we even have the unit number range, which is fairly new. So I want a property that has
Hey, I've been
between,
using that, and I'm telling you, the data is accurate. It works. I pulled a small lister over in Ohio, and I skip traced it through my company, Easy Skip. And on the first day, we had like 10 people that's interested in selling out of 166 leads.
There you go. So we've introduced some new filters. That's one of them. Whether it's an HOA or not is another thing that you can deal with. Again, some HOAs are very restrictive. So whether you want to exclude them, you get free range now with rehab and stuff like that. MLS status. So now we're what we call list stacking, right? We're now taking the pre-foreclosures and cross-referencing it with the MLS. So we're saying things like, now typically, this is what most of us do. I'm looking for a pre-foreclosure that's off market. So that's what most of us do in this area. But remember the graph. If a pre-foreclosure is starting right here and we're trying to look for someone highly motivated, this is why list stacking is important, because you can start adding things to it. So you can say, hey, look, I'm not just looking for a pre-foreclosure that's off market. I'm looking for a pre-foreclosure that's off market because it recently failed on the market. And now when I do that, my results are here. So now I have two pain points. I have a pre-foreclosure, plus they failed recently on the MLS. So these homeowners thought, hey, I'm just going to sell my house, wipe my hands clean. Well, looks like that didn't work out. And there are 181 leads right now. So now if I'm a new investor and I'm very limited on budget, I don't have the luxury like these big firms do to send thousands of postcards, I can now isolate the 181 people that are owner occupied, they're in pre-foreclosure, and they try to sell and it failed, which means for me a good thing, because if I knock on the door and I say, hey, I'm interested in buying your house, well, they were interested in selling. So it's not like they're going to slam my door. They might consider an offer because at one point they were wanting to sell and it didn't go through, versus someone who's in pre-foreclosure who didn't even try to list a property. They might not even want to deal with you at all, right? So the ability to go in there and say, hey, I want a property that was listed and it failed, that increases the conversation for me in my book, right? So when I go in there and say, hey, you know what, I see you're in pre-foreclosure and I'm interested in buying, well, the homeowner, again, was already willing to sell previously. So just adding an extra level of pain point, we went from a lower end of motivation to a higher end of motivation. And it doesn't stop there. Once you're done with MLS, you can refine the pre-foreclosure information, whether it's a certain status recorded recently, maybe let's say at the beginning of the year, auction date, opening bid, default amount. Once you're done with that, ownership info. So again, if we're knocking on doors, we want to talk to individuals, not corporations, right? We want to make sure maybe the owners live there for a while if you're looking for equity, or someone that's been committed and they have no out, essentially. And then to Antoine's point, for those that are looking for a non-owner occupied property, right? If you're looking for a non-owner occupied property, this right here is the important part. This is where you can say, okay, I want that owner that's not occupying that property to live in a different county or in an entirely different state. And so here's a person, we'll click on it, owns a property in Miami, but the person lives in North Carolina. And with everything going on right now, and hey, not only does he live in North Carolina, but there's an existing mortgage on that property right now. So I'm sure that this person is probably banking on the tenant to cash flow the property and cover the existing mortgage there, right? So with what's going on now, if that tenant loses a job and isn't able to pay that rent, problems. That balloon just popped and that owner is going to need a conversation. So as you guys can see, you can stack multiple reasons or pain points, but do be warned, the more and more you stack, the less and less
narrower the list get.
Exactly. So our system gives you the ability to get very granular, especially if you're within budget. Like if I only have the ability to go knocking on 6 doors today, here are the 6, right? But if I have the luxury to send a lot of marketing, a lot of calls, or have a team, then you might want to loosen up your results. Maybe like in this case, remove the recording date. And then now you have a lot more leads. So once you're done with the ownership info, you have the lien, bankruptcy, divorce status section. This allows you to refine a lien that you're searching for, bankruptcy or divorce. Or if you're looking for a different category like pre-foreclosure, this would be an area where you can stack So pre-foreclosure that failed recently, and it also has a lien on the property, right? So 3 pain points. Again, we just now went from pre-foreclosure to way up high on that list. So this is how our system works. Not only can you stack in this area, but as I mentioned earlier, you're able to suppress. So you can go in here and say, I've dealt with the lien before. I don't want to deal with the lien anymore. I've dealt with the bankruptcy. I don't want to deal with bankruptcy. I've dealt with divorces. I don't want to deal with the divorce. So you can suppress records just like you can add records to your leads. And so this is an area, again, where you can refine the type of lien you're looking for, recording dates, lien amounts, tax delinquency year. Next category is valuation and equity. So this is where you can specify estimated value, how much equity is on the property. Those that are doing like subject to or creative seller financing, you can play with loan to value ratio, maybe look for one that has a very high loan to value ratio. And then the last category is the mortgage info. So this is where some new filters have been included. So you're able to find properties that have like 1 existing mortgage or 2 existing mortgages on the property, open mortgage balance, look for the equity on the first mortgage. And then we have some new filters that we just included. So you can now specify properties that are cash bought, include them in your results or exclude them. Same for free and clear properties and seller carryback properties as well, which is a fairly new list here. And then I overlooked what Antoine was mentioning earlier, but in ownership info, when you play with years of ownership, so if I say, hey, I'd like to look for a property that has 10 years of ownership, what happens is a new filter appears called unknown sell date. So we'll say, hey, we're going to find all the properties that we know for sure have 10 years of ownership or more, but we also have properties where we don't even know when they were bought because they could have been bought many, many decades ago.
Yeah,
Would you like to include that?
Keeping records.
Exactly. Yeah. So some of our deeds go way back to like the early 1900s. So those would be the unknown sell dates. So you can include the unknown sell dates, and those are typically the ones at the very back of your list, or you can exclude them. And you can see here 5 of them were removed that had unknown sell dates.
It's not a way that you can kind of like, filter out like unknown equity yet, is it?
You know what? You can go in our system and look for equity, max equity at 0. That would potentially be the best way there, but no, not yet. Not specifically unknown equity, but that's a great bring up. Maybe we can talk to the team about that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So guys, this is what list stacking is all about. I was able to find multiple pain points and take a pre-foreclosure from, just slightly motivated. I mean, more motivated than the failed listing, but from here to a much higher motivation. So hopefully maybe 1 or 2 phone calls, we're able to get things done if I'm able to beat out my competition, right? Because again, when you're dealing with a very highly motivated list like pre-foreclosure, and you understand that these people are limited on time, they're mostly likely going to want to close a deal within maybe the next 30 days. Well, you're not the only one thinking that. There are thousands of other investors with the same mindset. So they're also in this category here. And that's why these are the benefits and the negatives here. You're going to get big discounts, right? Because beggars can't be choosers, especially with these homeowners. Most of them will just, want to pay off their mortgage and get a little bit on top. It is faster closing because you're racing against time, that auction date or the foreclosure date. But again, it's very competitive. And this is what's going to lead me to list suppression. So if this is very competitive, if pre-foreclosures are competitive in your market, any market that you're in, just know that our system can prevent you from looking for pre-foreclosures. So in this case, in Miami right now, there are 4,000 pre-foreclosures, but there are 15,000 liens. So I'm going to look for the liens that are owner occupied, single family, just like we did earlier. It failed recently, so non-owner and failed, just like we did with the pre-foreclosure. But this time they're not in pre-foreclosure yet. So I'm looking for a lien that failed on the market. It's not in pre-foreclosure. It's owned by an individual, maybe out of state. Oh, no results there, so we'll keep it there. And then the lien amount, and this is the motivation driver. So the lien amount is a serious amount. It's like 5,000 or more. So it's not something to just ignore, right? So here are 77 results that are not in pre-foreclosure, but they have a lien and they try to sell, right? So just like our first search was pre-foreclosure and they try to sell, Well, these are people that have a very substantial lien, and they thought, hey, you know what? I'm just going to sell my property, wipe my hands clean, but that didn't work out. So the next step now is if you don't pay off that lien, because selling your house didn't work out, but if you don't pay off that lien, now you're going to go into pre-foreclosure. So by suppressing pre-foreclosures, I'm over here.
Right.
I'm over here.
You back at the bottom of the curve. So
exactly.
yeah, that's smart.
And what I explain to people, again, let's be realistic here. Let's set some expectations. I know we're all hustlers at heart. I know if I gave you like a refrigerator and took you to Alaska, you'd probably sell it within a day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that doesn't happen, right? Not all sellers see it that way, right? So some leads are going to take longer. And again, when you're suppressing pre-foreclosure, the homeowner's motivation isn't as high as a person in pre-foreclosure. So when you're dealing with a lien that's not in pre-foreclosure, it's going to take more follow-up. And you guys understand, especially for those that have been in sales, 60% of your sales is in follow-up, right? That return customer or that customer you gave great service to that first time they came about, you know what I mean, when they were looking at the product. This is what that is, guys. When you're dealing with someone that's not in this need help category, be patient, right? When you make that first phone call, they're going to be in denial. They're going to probably tell you that they got it taken care of. They're going to tell you to shut up, probably hang up with you, and that's fine. You're going to get that a lot. And if you can go through that process and not take it personally, then the next time you follow up, maybe 30 days later, you know what, you're talking again. They still might say no, right? But they might know your name. They might say, hey, you know what, Antoine, stop calling me. But that's fine. We'll follow up in the next 30 days. And hopefully by then, I mean, we're not here preying on people in a negative way. We're here solving problems. So on the third phone call, I'm hoping the owner has taken care of that lien, right? And maybe on the third phone call, that's when reality is starting to set in, right? It's been 2 months later, homeowners probably sweating it, bills are stacking, lien notices are coming in. So in that third follow-up, maybe we start talking about the situation, and hopefully we do an appointment, and on the fourth follow-up is when we get something taken care of, a contract signed. Now, that may not happen all the time, right? So if we do get a contract signed, great. We beat out our competition that are waiting for this guy to go into pre-foreclosure. Now, if the property ends up going into pre-foreclosure, it's still a benefit. Why? Because you're the investor that's been there for the longest. And all of a sudden, all these other investors are calling him. Like, you're instantly separated from those guys, right? Why are these guys all of a sudden calling me when I'm in pre-foreclosure? Where were they when I had a lien, right? Right. You get what I'm saying? So by understanding that this game requires a lot of patience and perseverance, this is how you're going to be able to separate yourself from people that are, again, waiting for that need help situation. So guys, I wanted to set some expectation. I know you guys can probably sell really quick, really well, but just understand that the homeowners are not going to be eye to eye with you in some cases. And so the follow-up is the most important part. And again, if you're not able to get them before it goes into pre-foreclosure, that's fine, because you're the person that's been there calling them for the last 6 months. So that alone will hopefully separate you from all these interested investors all of a sudden. So that is list suppression. And here we have 77 properties that I believe have a higher probability of going into pre-foreclosure that are not there yet, right? And the 3 pain points are: you have a lien, it failed on the market recently, it's not in pre-foreclosure, but the lien amount's 5,000 or more, and you guys can see here. So this is what our system was designed to do: list stack, list suppress. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is what I was mentioned earlier, is that a lead is not a list. I know it's weird because I just showed you how to stack lists and how to suppress lists, but at the end of the day, a lead is not a list. Because what I'm really doing by stacking is I'm finding 3 problems and putting them together. Right. When I'm suppressing problems. So at the end of the day, I'm looking for a problem. And why I say a lead is not a list, a lead is a problem, is because I can go in Miami and suppress all the records you guys would look for. You guys are looking for vacant properties, I'm looking for an occupied property. You guys are looking for a failed listing, I'm looking for an off-market property. You guys are looking for pre-foreclosures, I'm looking for no pre-foreclosures. You guys are looking for liens, bankruptcies, and all that good stuff, I'm suppressing all of those records. And my pain point is I'm looking for an individual that owns a property for 10 years or more and maybe has 2 mortgages on their property, right? Maybe I can help them consolidate that. So what I just did is I literally blocked out all the public records that you guys would be looking for. So I just weeded out all my competition, and I just found myself 12,000 properties that have 2 mortgages or more, and I can refine that. Let's look for the single family properties. Let's look for the ones that also have 70 and plus in equity. So you have mortgages, that's fine, but you still have 70 plus in equity. So now we're down to 1,300 leads that you guys would have never discovered because you're so used to pulling a list.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to emphasize is that we've designed our system to, yeah, you can pull a list, stack it, suppress list, but you can also build a problem. And this is why a lot of different people have used our system. Like I just kind of shared this with you. I had a contractor using our product, and he wasn't even using it to flip properties. He just went into our system and said, hey, I want all the MLSs that sold recently, and the property was built in 1980 to 1990. And I asked him, well, why are you doing that? And he's like, well, I'm a roofer. And so properties usually last about 25, or roofs usually last 25 to 30 years. I said, yeah, you're right. And he's like, well, here is my lead. So if he was in Miami, this is exactly what he would have done. Sold properties, single family, built in 1980, 1990. He has now 1,300 leads he can promote his roofing service to, right? So we're discovering that people are starting to understand that PropStream can be used for many different strategies. It's just a matter of who you are, what you're capable of, and understanding that our filter is not here to just pull a list, which you can do, but to also allow you to, as I did here, I didn't even pull a list, but just go on the left-hand side and just create your own problem.
So let's talk about, before we wrap it up, we talked about how we can pull stuff out of PropStream, but let's kind of touch on how you can import stuff into PropStream. I see people here talking about code violations and water shutoff. Most of them type of leads, you got to go and get yourself directly to the county because it's such a sensitive type of list to get. So, but what you can do, correct me if I'm wrong, you can take this list and bring it into your list automator and stack it against whatever records you have to see the motivation of.
You nailed it right on the head. And you're absolutely right. So new feature that hit the market, PropStream, in about a month and a half ago now. It's in the settings. If you don't have it yet, go to add-on services, and it's List Automator. And so there's a 3-part process to List Automator, and List Automator is going to enhance your My Properties page. So the 3 things that it's going to do is it's going to give you 10 new boxes here at the very top. So anytime you save a list, let's say a county, a pre-foreclosed list or a tired landlord list, it's going to isolate vacant, high equity. So it's going to take your list and tell you exactly what properties are vacant, what properties within your list have high equity, low equity, and so forth. So as you can see, it can get broken down. So your 138 cash buyers, here's how many of them are on market. Here's how many of their properties just sold. Here's how many of them are vacant, and so forth. So these 10 new boxes from vacant to bankruptcy is the first part to List Automator, and this will also allow you to refine that. So maybe you're looking for a high equity property that's owned by an individual for 5 years. And as you hit apply, it doesn't delete your list. It only isolates just that category and says, hey, we weren't able to find any results for you. And now you can delete that filter and it goes back to normal. So you're able to create a list within a list. That's the first part of List Automator. The second part of List Automator is that you can now import an outside list, just like you said, Antoine. So if you have a different provider's list, and let's say they don't have MLS data, you'll be able, actually, you know what? Let me just show you guys, because I had a list here. So here's a driving for dollars list that I have, just to show you guys, no data or anything here. So 181 Costa Mesa Street here. So I'm going to take that list and I'm going to import it. So step 1, 2, and 3 I already did for you guys before this. So I'm going to take my drivers for dollars list and I'm going to import it. SoCal driving for dollars list. And I'm going to save that. So in just a second, the 260 addresses that were on that Excel sheet is going to get matched up into PropStream. And then PropStream is going to give me all of the data as of this morning. So here it is. 260 uploaded, 257. So 3 properties didn't go through successfully. You probably want to print out the report and have your team look at the failed ones. Probably just needs like a unit number. We will actually even tell you how many properties failed. So it'll say, hey, failed, because we identified there's 2 properties with that same address. So you might need to add like a unit number here in this column.
Right.
So the report is important because it's not saying that the property doesn't exist. It just says we couldn't identify it. So just do a little bit more research. So once you import, your list is now in your marketing list. So let me find my SoCal Driving for Dollars list. Here it is, guys. 257. 10 of them are on market. I don't need those 10. I can now check them off and delete them. 257 are vacant, of course, because I'm driving for dollars. They look vacant, right? High equity. 234 of them have a lot of equity. So this is my wholesale.
But hey, before I cut you off, you know what I noticed, right? Because we do driving for dollars too. These driving for dollars lists, majority of the leads are high equity. Is there a theory behind it, or do you have a theory behind it?
Any reasons behind as to why it's high equity?
I'm saying, like, I tested multiple lists, and like, I don't know because it's sitting and it, over time it automatically appreciated because of inflation. I don't know what it is, but like, I noticed, like, even outside of putting in a list automator, that most of these houses have a shit ton of equity that's sitting vacant.
And you might be right. I've noticed that too. A lot of like vacant properties, like these abandoned houses, have a lot of equity. And the only conclusion I can conclude with is that it's probably been in the family tree for such a long time that it's a free and clear property. So whether it's 60,000 or 100,000 after you rehab it, it's high equity no matter what, because there's no mortgage assigned to it. Period. Another thing I can think of too is like, just thinking of the homeowner, like who in their right mind would just abandon a property like that? You know what I mean? I mean, we're looking for the owner because we know that that abandoned property is money to us, right? So I've always asked myself, like, why would someone just completely abandon their property? And to your point, most of these properties that are abandoned and look like destroyed, they have equity in them. Like, why is that? And the only thing I can think of is that you probably have multiple properties and this is just the property that gives you the most headaches. So you're just like, I'm going to leave it alone, right? It's kind of like that toy that you have or that movie that you have that you really love, but you haven't watched it in like 4 years, but it's just there.
Right.
Like, that's what it is. Like, right, if your friend's like, hey, I want to borrow that movie, you're like, no, it's my favorite movie, but you haven't watched it in 4 years. And I think that is probably what's happening, is that these homeowners own these properties outright, or they probably have very small mortgage amounts on them because their mortgage was probably back in this, 80s and the 70s or early 90s. So it's not a real issue to them. And yeah, I've noticed that too. Like most of the vacant properties, these boarded up houses, still have tons of equity in them. And that's my only conclusion. It's been in the family tree, or it's just that it's one of multiple properties and it's not a financial issue yet for them to even take care of it.
Right.
So this is the second part, which is importing your list, and then boom, we have all of the data. So you're able to see our mortgage information, our MLS details. So again, I took a driving for dollars list, had no information on it, and here are the MLS details, the agent's information, and it categorizes these boxes for me. So of my driving for dollars list, 16 of them need creative seller financing. 7 of them also need creative seller financing. So that is what List Automator was designed to do. Give you these 10 boxes so we can tell you what's in your list, import an outside list and get our data. And then the third update is to take any existing marketing list that you've saved within our system, like this tired landlord list that I have, and automate it. Meaning we can now monitor it on a daily basis and add properties in your list as we're updating records. And if these properties meet your filter, we'll add it automatically, or we can add it to a different list, or we can just give you the heads up and say, hey, this is what's happening. What do you want to do with these 20 properties that meet your criteria?
Yeah, that might be a game changer.
Yeah, exactly. And then not only can we control what's coming in, but we can control what's in your list and whether they should be moved out. So if you have, in this case, 388 properties, and they no longer meet your tired landlord list filter, what do you want to do? Do you want to remove them automatically, move them to a different list, or just be notified, then you do it yourself? So this is the automate list. This is a third most important part of our list automator. And once you automate a list, it's going to go into our new automate list section. So any marketing list that you put in the automate list section on a day-to-day basis is being monitored. We're going to make sure that every single address within this area here meets your criteria. And at which point, if they do not meet your criteria, we're going to go ahead and notify you, or depending on the rules that you selected, we're going to either take them off automatically or add them automatically. So as you can see here, I just automated my landlord list, right? Here's my filter. It's a very elaborate filter. And this was a list I saved a while ago. As a matter of fact, you guys can see that this was saved on March 12th, right? Date added to this list, March 12th. That was almost a month ago. And this was the filter that I had. And now I automated it. So I said, okay, Propstream, monitor it for me. And as of today, Propstream's saying, okay, well, we just updated your list. 8 of them have to go. These 8 no longer meet this criteria. So if we didn't do this for you, guess what would have happened? You would have knocked on 388 doors, or you would have sent 388 postcards. So in reality, we need to remove these 8 or bring them into a different list. In this case, I'm going to remove them. So now my list is actually 380. So again, this was a list I saved almost a month ago. And within 28 days, literally, not even that long, 8 properties no longer meet my criteria. And this is why it's revolutionary, because no system does that. Right. In order for you to do what I'm doing, you have to literally, like if we're using a different provider, you would have to have bought the list March 12th, like we did here, and then wait 28 days later, buy the same list, and then realize, oh, okay, there's only 380 this time. Right. So that is why it's revolutionary, because we're trying to save you guys money at the end of the day.
So to explain it in Lane's term, right, I'm going to interpret it, because for me, I have a lead manager that's a VA. So this type of stuff I'm teaching right now to show her, that way she can be able to monitor. So now we're putting all our lists in Propstream, and we're just sitting them there. And let's say, for example, instead of her going to go pull a whole another tire leave and maybe get the same exact records all over again, she will just go back and check them onto the list to see what new records was available, and just add it to that list, and then continuously put it back in rotation if I was called. Or she could just pull them records by herself and just put it in a dialer and call it, or however you want to do it. But I definitely think that this is revolutionary. At first, this was a lot of copy and paste and manual labor work. There's a reason why, I can say how I feel, because, I don't work for Propstream. But there's a reason why the API guys are mad at Propstream, because stuff like this is changing the way you get your data in real time. Like, no more double dipping on you.
That was the reason why we've worked on this for a good 3 years almost, maybe a little bit more than that. And it, a lot of people would call in and say, hey, Propstream, what's the difference between you and so and so, you and so and so? And hey, look, the reality is we're not perfect, right? We're never going to claim that we're perfect. We're never going to claim that we have all the data out there. Now, we're very close to getting the most aggressive data, period. But the reality is that there are some things that we don't have, right? And vice versa. There are things that we have that these other providers don't have, and there are things that they have that we might not have. So at the end of the day, we thought about you guys. We're like, okay, what is it that an investor does, and what is it that an investor needs? And at the end of the day, what an investor needs is as much data as possible, period, right? And before all of this technology, we were calling agents, we were going to the county, we were going on multiple websites to consolidate all of that information together. Well, that's why we introduced this Automator, is so that, hey, whether you're driving for dollars and you need our data, go ahead and bring it in. We'll tell you how many are on market. Or maybe you have a list, again, from a different provider. Like, we don't have probates right now. We're working on it, but we don't have probates right now. But if you get a list of probates from a provider, and that provider maybe doesn't have tax liens, maybe doesn't have mortgage information, maybe doesn't have MLS.
You got something even better than probates, to my knowledge, right? You got the ability to show that a property was transferred to a hero or something like that.
Yeah, you'll be able to see transfer history. Yeah, that's correct.
So for me, I don't care about the probate process, because they haven't even got the property deeded to them to be able to sell anyway. So I'd rather use that list.
I like how you think, man.
I'd rather use that list, knowing that, hey, the title work's done, they're ready to go. Are you ready to sell? And call them straight up like that. Then it'd be locking stuff up and have to wait 8 to 12 months for a judge to decide what assets are split and stuff like that. So I think that list is more better than a probate. I don't know why nobody pushing it, but you know me, I tell people what I know. We're going to start.
You're the one, you find a lot of hidden gems. I will be honest. You always come across. You always we're always coming back and forth with ideas. So but yeah, that was the goal, is to essentially coat our data with their data. So that way, when you're like, hey, Burton, what's the difference between you and them? My response to you now is, well, why don't you just bring it over and we'll give you what we have, right?
Someone asked, can you show how that worked before we get off here? We're going to wrap it up in about 5 minutes, but can you show how what I was just saying work in real life? Because I'm telling you, there's deals to be made just off that one list.
Oh, with the transfer histories?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Hold on 1 second here. Let me get here. Let me flip this really quick.
And guys, if you like this, share. Guys, if you're new and you haven't signed up for Propstream, we're gonna give you a 7-day free trial. I have my Propstream group that I'm going to start posting in. I'm gonna get Burton to start posting in it, and all of my real estate friends to really bring value to it. If you already have Propstream, reach out to us so we can get you added into the group. We definitely want to help as many people as possible. Really learn how to take advantage of the situation, because most people using Propstream just for pre-foreclosures or high equity, they're not taking advantage of the $97 a month they're spending. And I use Propstream for just about everything. I'm that guy that's up at night, 3 in the morning. Soon as the developer add a new filter or feature, I'm already on like, what is this? How does this work? And
there you go. And here's just a quick example. I wanted to narrow it down. So I went in our filter, went to Miami, same place, non-owner occupied property, single family, owned by an individual that lives in a different state, but there's been a family transfer in there. And so here are my 20 results. So here I'm able to see property was owned for 15 years, and I go into the mortgage information, and there's been a transfer, a family transfer. So these are one of the things where, hey, someone's lived there for 15 years. They've transferred the property to, it looks like, a family member. What's the reason? Is it because they're ready for retirement? And again, transfers could be a good thing. Like if a family member transferred me something, I'd be happy, right? But at the same time, to some people, it could be a burden because now you're paying property taxes on a property you didn't expect to be transferred.
Especially if you put the free and clear, right? Because if it's a mortgage on it, it's PITI.
Ooh, I
right?
love that.
The mortgage company going to escrow the taxes. So you might not pay the taxes for a whole year, but it's always been escrow because you ain't paying the mortgage. But if it's free and clear, you're going to have a more reason to sell, especially if it's free and clear in a tax deed state where there is no tax certificate. As soon as it goes to the chopping block, they deeding that shit right over to whoever bought the tax sale.
There you go, guys. Yeah, and that's the inter-family transfer filter right there. So you do have that ability to look for properties that have had a transfer.
I want to say, is the transfer dates able to be filtered? To Shia, I believe so. I'm not an expert at Propstream.
For what? I'm sorry, what was your question again on that?
I want to ask if the transfer dates are able to be filtered.
Not yet. No. Transfer dates are not able to be filtered yet. So just understand that you might need, well, yeah, I mean, in theory you can, because the transfer will be treated as a sale. It's a non-arm's linked sale. So yeah, in theory you can. You just would go into the last sell date. So just think of, hey, I want to transfer, but that transfer, quote unquote, last sell date occurred back in like 2003, 2008, or just recently. It just happened at the beginning of this year. So yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's enough for them for today, bro. Is there anything like you work Propstream? I don't know nothing that's going on with Propstream, but is there anything that Propstream may be working on, or maybe add to the system, or anything you want to talk about, or if not, we can leave it at that.
You guys have been asking for it for a good few months now, but we're very close to releasing our mobile application. I can't really give too much information, but I'll be very transparent with you guys and honest with you. And you know me, I don't really like say, things to fluff things. I let the product just tell itself. But this application will be completely different than what's out there in the market right now. It will take care of driving for dollars, but more. And I'll leave it there. Okay, so
just leave it there.
It's gonna be big. So
when the boss man say, "Hey, let's rock and roll," we can talk about it. We definitely gotta get you back on the show to show these people this life changing application. I seen a bit of it. I ain't gonna talk about it. I ain't gonna do y'all like that. But it's hard for me to be quiet. But I'm very excited. I thought they was gonna release it in April, but I guess they still developing.
We're still working on it. This COVID kind of slowed things down. We're all working remotely, as you can see here. So everything has been through Zoom calls, but our developers are still good. I mean, they're used to the quarantine style, right? No need to knock. Rich, I love you, man, if you're there. But no, these guys understand. They're still working diligently and getting it out there. It's just that, us guys, like we're Propstream. We play with the data. When we do something, we do it big, like this Automator. We try to just change everything. So every time we think we're right there, we just come up with another idea. I'm like, no, let's just add that in there. But we're toning that down. We're trying to kind of loosen up, kind of pulling the reins a little bit, making sure that this product is hopefully out by summer. Hopefully this COVID thing dies down, a vaccine is perhaps found, or we're able to go back out and live our lives. So we're trying to get this out, hopefully out before summer. So maybe within the next 30 to 60 days. We're anticipating a release date of this month, if not by May. But yeah, it will definitely be here by summer, so you guys can go out there and do your thing out on the road.
So, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way? Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Burton Alicando, Instagram, Keep Calm, Burton is on. You can find me on Facebook groups, Propstream user community. It's a user community strictly for our Propstream users, where you can, get with each other and see some best practices other people are using, and you can also get a hold of the admins like myself.
And yeah, he will be speaking at the Drip Conference, the postponed Drip Conference, which should have been happening tomorrow, but it is what it is. The Lord works in strange ways, so I'm not gonna question anything the Lord do. But he will be speaking, and he'll one of the speakers that you need to be fucking paying attention to, excuse my language, because he's going to come and drop nothing but straight solid content about how to really aggregate. You think this something? I know for a fact his presentation going to run laps around what we just saying. So when we decide to release the date for Drip, definitely get your tickets, because he's going to give away the whole game, how to really scale your business using data with Propstream.
So, and to add to that, I will say that, let me just emphasize that this is, like you said, things happen for certain reasons. And if Drip was happening today, think about it. We don't even have the mobile app ready right now.
Right.
So we could even have talked about it or even mention it. But being that Drip was postponed and it's now coming out soon, I mean, in the summer, the app should be out. So you're not going to want to miss this, because I'm going to be putting that part of that piece into my presentation. So make sure you guys sign up, man. Like, be there. You guys will get to meet me personally. We'll get to talk about data. And then, yeah, if you guys are there at the show, you'll be able to most likely see all the cool tools and features that our app will have.
Yeah, and we giving out 1 year free Propstream to someone. We started that. I called up Propstream, hey, I need that, and they looked out for me, but that's going to be delayed. But maybe we can give something out sooner than that, or maybe you guys can mail out a goodie bag with some Propstream shirt or bag to someone, one lucky person this week. I can give that out as a courtesy to someone. We'll figure out how to give it out. But
let's definitely talk after this. I would like to work with you on that.
Listen, it's bigger than me being affiliated with Propstream. I actually believe in this software. This software has changed the way I do business. If it wasn't for Propstream, I couldn't even run my virtual wholesaling operation. So that's the number one most important thing I want to show to you guys. You can do this stuff from the comfort of your own home. You don't even have to be out there banging on doors if you don't want to. You can skip trades, get the numbers. Propstream even offers skip tracing within their platform. I offer skip tracing. It's up to you. It don't matter. There's enough money for everybody. So I definitely say sign up for Propstream. If you don't have Propstream, if you're watching the replay, REIGiverData.com. You won't be disappointed. 7-day free trial, and I think it comes with 1,000 free leads. So you can't go wrong.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Just reach out to me.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for taking time out your morning. It was 9 o'clock your time, but I think it's 14 your time now. So
so it's still early for me. But now you guys try out. Make sure you guys click on the link. Try out the 7-day period. And it's actually 50 properties that you'll save during the trial period. But again, once you're a subscriber, it's $10,000 a month. So do the math. It's literally like half a penny. So thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you, Antoine, so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.